The story starts in the year 1760. We meet the Collins family, a wealthy family of three. There's Barnabas, their young son, and his parents. They're getting on a ship from Liverpool, England, heading to America. As they board, a little girl stares at Barnabas in a strange way. Her mother, wearing a cloak, tells her not to stare because they're just servants, but the girl keeps looking at him. The Collins family is very rich because Barnabas's father, Joshua Collins, owns a big fishing business. He's moving to America to make his business even bigger. In fact, when they arrive, he builds a whole town called Collinsport. The family isn't just rich, they're also very loving. Joshua shows Barnabas how big their fishing business is and teaches him how important family is. In Collinsport, Joshua builds a huge, beautiful mansion for his family and names it Collinwood. As time passes, their business grows and Barnabas becomes a handsome young man. But then, things get messy. Barnabas gets involved with a maid in their house named Angelique Bouchard, the same girl who stared at him as a child. One day, Angelique tells Barnabas she loves him and wants to marry him. But Barnabas doesn't feel the same way and says no. This makes Angelique very angry, and she decides to get revenge using dark magic. She makes a statue in the mansion fall on Barnabas's parents, killing them. Barnabas soon realizes this wasn't an accident, it was magic. He starts reading books about witchcraft to understand what happened. Later, Barnabas falls in love with a woman named Josette Dupress. But Angelique can't stand seeing him happy with someone else because she's obsessed with him. She uses her magic again, this time to control Josette. Under Angelique's spell, Josette walks to the edge of a cliff. Before Barnabas can stop her, she jumps off and dies. Heartbroken, Barnabas jumps off the same cliff, hoping to die too. But here's the twist. Barnabas doesn't die. Angelique, knowing Barnabas would never love her, had already cursed him to become a vampire, so he would suffer forever. To make sure her curse works, she convinces the townspeople to catch Barnabas, lock him in a coffin, and bury him alive. And just like that, Barnabas is trapped underground for 200 years. Now, let's jump to the year 1972, where the story picks up again. A young woman is sitting on a train, looking at a newspaper ad for a maid job at Collinwood. Her real name is different, but she calls herself Victoria Winters. She practices for her interview by talking to herself. When she reaches Collinsport, she hitchhikes her way to the famous Collinwood mansion. A servant named Willie Loomis opens the door for her. Inside, she sees an old lady, Mrs. Johnson, sitting quietly. Victoria looks a lot like Josette, Barnabas's lost love. As she walks around the house, she sees a painting of a man on the wall. She asks Willie who it is. Elizabeth, a member of the Collins family, tells her it's Barnabas Collins, a noble and respected member of their family. Elizabeth is the one who put out the ad for a governess to look after her nephew, David. She explains to Victoria that only a few people live in the huge mansion now: herself, her daughter Carolyn, her brother Roger, and Roger's son David. Victoria asks about David's mother, and Elizabeth sadly says she drowned in the sea. But David refuses to believe this. He keeps saying his mother is still here and that he can see and talk to her. Later, Victoria meets Carolyn, Elizabeth's daughter. Carolyn is a bit wild and has a rebellious attitude. At dinner, Elizabeth introduces Victoria to Roger, David's father, and Dr. Julia Hoffman, a psychiatrist who's been treating David for 3 years. Since David keeps saying he sees his mother's ghost, Dr. Hoffman is helping him. Roger tries to flirt with Victoria, but she doesn't seem interested. Meanwhile, Carolyn is dancing to loud music, which annoys Roger. He yells at her to stop. Carolyn turns off the music and sits down, but she acts rude. Just then, Victoria sees someone covered in a white sheet. Before she can get scared, Elizabeth introduces him as David and tells him Victoria is his new governess. David is upset because Elizabeth ruined his surprise, but Victoria smiles. Soon, Carolyn and David start arguing like kids, and Elizabeth scolds them, telling Carolyn to leave. Before storming out, Carolyn shouts that no one in the house cares about her. Victoria talks to David, who insists he still sees and talks to his mom. Everyone at the table tells him to stop, but Victoria says some people really can see dead people because they can see through other dimensions. Elizabeth quickly stops her because she doesn't want David to believe his hallucinations. Later that night, Victoria is unpacking her things when she sees someone covered in a white sheet again. At first, she thinks it's David trying to scare her, so she doesn't react much. Thinking it's David again, she walks over to pull the sheet off. But this time, it's not David, it's the ghost of Josette, Barnabas's lost love. Josette warns Victoria, saying he is coming. Then she walks away. Victoria follows her. The ghost floats around the chandelier before falling from it and disappearing into thin air. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, some workers are digging with a big machine. By accident, they uncover the coffin where Barnabas has been buried for 200 years. The supervisor cuts the chains, and Barnabas bursts out. But this isn't a happy moment. He attacks the workers and kills them all. As Barnabas walks toward Collinwood, he's shocked by all the strange things around him. He reaches a road and touches it carefully. Suddenly, a car speeds toward him. Barnabas has never seen a car before, so he thinks it's magic and raises his arms like he's surrendering. The The driver swerves to avoid hitting him and yells at Barnabas before driving off. Barnabas sees a sign pointing to Collins Port and follows the road. When he gets there, he's amazed by the bright lights, shops, restaurants, and people. Everything has changed since his time. Finally, he reaches Collinwood Mansion, where he finds Willie, the drunk servant, working in the front yard. Barnabas tells Willie not to be afraid, and Willie offers him a drink, but Barnabas pushes it away. He hypnotizes Willie and asks if any Collins family members still live there. Willie says yes. Then Barnabas asks what year it is, and he's shocked when Willie says 1972. Barnabas starts exploring the mansion, walking through the halls and remembering how grand it used to be. Soon Barnabas meets Carolyn and David, the younger members of the Collins family. At first, they don't understand who he is. Carolyn thinks he might be some drunk who wandered into the house, but David notices something weird. Barnabas looks exactly like the man in the portrait on the wall. Elizabeth, the head of the family, comes in and tells the kids and Willie to leave, thinking Barnabas might be a thief. She talks to him alone, warning him that if he's after money, he's out of luck because they're not rich anymore. She secretly holds a knife, just in case he tries to hurt her. But Barnabas proves who he is by showing her a hidden room in the house. In a funny moment, he realizes Elizabeth already knows about this room. She even keeps her things there. But Barnabas doesn't stop there. He shows her another secret passage, one Elizabeth didn't know about. She's shocked. When the passage opens, Barnabas introduces himself as Barnabas Collins, and Elizabeth can't believe it. The passage leads to a hidden vault full of treasure. When Elizabeth sees it, she finally believes he really is Barnabas Collins, their long-lost relative. Barnabas then tells her something even more shocking. He's a vampire, but he promises he won't hurt any of the family. He asks if he can stay, and Elizabeth agrees, but only if he keeps his secret from everyone else. Barnabas agrees, and they shake on it. At breakfast, Elizabeth introduces Barnabas as a distant cousin to the rest of the family. Since Barnabas is a vampire, he carefully touches the silverware on the table, thinking it might burn him, but nothing happens, which surprises him. He talks in an old-fashioned way, and Carolyn asks Elizabeth if he's serious. Then Dr. Julia arrives, and Elizabeth introduces her as a distant cousin. Still acting like someone from the past, Barnabas says, "A woman doctor. What an age this is." Elizabeth quickly covers for him, saying he's tired from his trip. Barnabas then asks why the family's real silverware isn't on the table. Roger asks how he knows these are fake, and Barnabas jokes that if they were real silver, his hand would have burned. Elizabeth again makes an excuse, saying Barnabas is allergic to metal. Elizabeth explains that the family's money has slowly disappeared over time. Barnabas asks about their fishing business, and Elizabeth and Roger tell him a woman named Angie took control of it by making deals with the fishermen. Barnabas isn't happy and promises to bring the business back to the Collins family. Just then, Victoria walks in and Barnabas is stunned. She looks exactly like Josette, his lost love. He even calls her Josette, but David corrects him, saying she's their governess, Victoria, or Vicky. When Barnabas shakes Victoria's hand, he tells her not to let anyone call her Vicky, because Victoria is a beautiful name. Victoria feels something strange when she touches him. Their moment is interrupted when Roger complains about money problems, saying it doesn't grow on trees. Barnabas tells them not to worry and says they should get the horses and carriage ready. Everyone is confused, and Elizabeth explains that people use cars now, not carriages. Meanwhile, we see Angie driving her car, waving at people as she heads to work. She's the woman who took over the fishing business. But here's the big twist. Angie is actually Angelique, the same witch who cursed Barnabas 200 years ago. Using her dark magic, she's stayed alive all this time, changing her name over the years. When she hears about the coffin being dug up and the workers being killed, she realizes Barnabas is back. Angelique quickly goes to Collinwood Mansion to face Barnabas. Willie opens the door for her. As she enters, she sees Carolyn and is about to speak to her when Elizabeth stops her and asks why she's there. Angelique says she came to see Barnabas. Elizabeth tells her he's sleeping, but Willie has already woken him up. Barnabas recognizes Angelique right away, but doesn't say anything. He tells Elizabeth he'll talk to Angelique alone. In the drawing room, Angelique suddenly kisses Barnabas and says, "It's really you." Barnabas is furious and asks how she dared to touch him with her wicked lips. Angelique says she remembers this room because they used to have fun there. She offers to be his partner, both in love and in the fishing business. But Barnabas, still angry, says, "You killed the women I loved and turned me into a monster." He tries to grab her by the throat, but Angelique quickly pulls open the curtains. Since Barnabas is a vampire, the sunlight hurts him. Angelique leaves, saying, "Welcome back to the shadows, Barnabas. I've missed you." Barnabas tells Elizabeth the truth. Angie is actually Angelique, the witch who cursed him and destroyed his life 200 years ago. He says Angelique hated him, but Elizabeth disagrees. She says if Angelique truly hated him, she would have killed him. Instead, she seems devoted to him. Barnabas is upset, but Elizabeth tells him to focus on rebuilding the family business and their reputation. She says he can only do that if he lets go of the past. Taking her advice, Barnabas starts fixing up the mansion. They visit their old factory, which is now in ruins, planning to restore it. Their plan to bring back the family business starts moving forward. In a funny moment, Barnabas sees a TV for the first time. He pulls out its wires and demands, "Reveal yourself, sorcerer." Carolyn, who's lying nearby, thinks that Barnabas belongs to some very remote area. Barnabas and Victoria grow closer as he reads a book to her. Meanwhile, Barnabas orders a coffin to sleep in, since he's more comfortable that way. Slowly, the Collins family's fishing business starts doing well again, but Angelique doesn't like it one bit. Willie takes Barnabas to meet the fisherman who had been working for Angelique. Barnabas uses his hypnotic powers to convince them to work for the Collins family instead. One day, Roger sees Barnabas coming out of the hidden treasure vault and becomes suspicious. Around the same time, Dr. Julia Hoffman, the psychiatrist, starts thinking there's something strange about Barnabas. She hypnotizes him and discovers his secret. He's a vampire. Shocked, she tells Elizabeth, but Elizabeth insists they keep it quiet to protect the family's name. Barnabas tries to adjust to modern life by asking Carolyn for love advice. He asks how old she is, and when she says 15, he's surprised. Back in his time, women were married by that age. Carolyn calls him crazy. She suggests he change his old-fashioned clothes and behavior to fit in better. At the same time, Dr. Julia pretends to help Barnabas by offering to turn him back into a human, but her real plan is something else. The next day, Victoria sees Barnabas standing alone by the shore. She walks up to him, and Barnabas is happy she's paying attention to him. He asks about David, and Victoria says he needs care. Barnabas is impressed by how kind and caring Victoria is. Angelique's business partners tell her their company is failing. She gets very angry and says she won't let her 200-year-old business empire collapse. She invites Barnabas to meet privately at her office. When he arrives, she offers him a check for $750,000. But Barnabas refuses the money. Angelique then tries to seduce him, saying they're both monsters in this world and should be partners in both love and business. Barnabas tries to resist, but Angelique keeps tempting him until he gives in and they become intimate. Afterward, Barnabas regrets it immediately. He tells Angelique he's always felt desire for her, but that's not love. Angelique insists this is love. Barnabas's expression changes. He turns to her and says he'll never give in to her charms again. Angelique's face darkens with anger. As Barnabas tries to leave, she grabs his arm and threatens, "If I can't have you, I'll destroy you." Barnabas pushes her away and leaves, making Angelique even angrier. Meanwhile, Victoria has what seems like a dream, but it's actually a memory. When she was young, she could see ghosts. Her parents thought she was crazy and sent her to a mental hospital. In the dream, she sees herself being taken away in an ambulance. She wakes up suddenly, disturbed by the memory. But when she opens her eyes, she sees Josette's ghost again. She follows the ghost, who keeps saying, "Help me, help me," before floating around the chandelier and falling from it, leaving Victoria terrified. The next morning at breakfast, Barnabas suggests throwing a huge party, a ball at Collinwood Mansion. Elizabeth asks who should be invited, and Barnabas says the whole town, explaining that big parties show off wealth. Dr. Julia comes in acting strangely. She seems bothered by sunlight and tells Willie to close the curtains. Barnabas notices her odd behavior. Carolyn suggests inviting Alice Cooper to perform at the party. Barnabas agrees, but in a funny moment, he looks at Alice Cooper's poster and promises Carolyn she will be there, not realizing Alice Cooper is actually a man. At the grand party, Alice Cooper performs, and Carolyn is thrilled, thanking Barnabas for making her wish come true. As Barnabas walks around, he sees David standing by the door where guests left their coats and belongings. When Barnabas asks why he's there, David says his father Roger told him to watch the door and not disturb him. Barnabas hypnotizes David to make him leave. Then he sees Roger inside the room with a woman, stealing money and valuables from the guests' coats. Barnabas quietly walks away without confronting them. He goes to a balcony where Victoria is standing alone, the same spot where Barnabas confessed his love to Josette 200 years ago. As they talk, Victoria admits she's developed feelings for Barnabas. She says she feels she can tell him anything and that she's strangely attracted to him in a hypnotic way. Just as they're about to kiss, Victoria stops. Barnabas apologizes, but Victoria explains that people she's loved haven't always loved her back. She then tells her real story. Victoria reveals her true name is Maggie Evans. Because she could see ghosts as a child, her own parents thought she was crazy and sent her to a mental hospital. She could always see and talk to Josette's ghost. At the hospital, doctors gave her painful electric shock treatments. One day, she escaped with great difficulty. When she needed a new home, Josette's ghost led her to Collinwood Mansion in Collinsport. While they're having this heartfelt conversation, Angelique arrives to ruin the party. She looks for Barnabas but can't find him in the main hall. At the exact moment, Victoria tells Barnabas how happy she's been since coming to Collinsport and meeting him. Angelique sees them together. She becomes jealous and furious, but doesn't confront them right away. Barnabas is excited and goes to Dr. Julia's clinic, wanting her to hurry up with the process to turn him human again. But when he enters, he gets a big shock. Dr. Julia is taking his blood and putting it into her own body to make herself immortal. Scared, Dr. Julia says she can explain, but Barnabas quickly understands her plan. Angry, he kills her. Then he throws her body into the ocean to hide what he did. Roger is curious about the hidden vault in the mansion and tries to find it. Barnabas catches him. Just as Barnabas is about to kill Roger, he remembers his promise to Elizabeth. Instead, he gives Roger a choice: stay and be a good father to David, or take money and leave. Roger, being selfish, takes the money and abandons David, making the boy very sad. As David runs away upset, something dangerous happens. Willie is fixing the chandelier when it suddenly falls toward David. Barnabas uses his vampire speed and strength to save David, but he doesn't realize he's standing in sunlight, and his back catches fire. Elizabeth whispers fire to him, but Barnabas is too worried about David to notice. Willie throws a bucket of water at Barnabas, but this reveals Barnabas is a vampire. David, scared, runs away. Even Victoria, who had become close to Barnabas, stays away from him now, not sure what to think. Barnabas meets Angelique again and demands she remove his curse. But Angelique refuses and says she knows too much. She gives Barnabas a choice: be her partner in business and love, or stay locked in his coffin forever. Still angry, Barnabas says no. Angelique, knowing about Dr. Julia's death, uses magic to trap Barnabas in his coffin again. She puts the coffin in her van. On the way, she uses magic to set the Collins family's fishing factory on fire, causing more damage. She takes the coffin to a lonely place, opens it to say goodbye to Barnabas, tells him he'll stay buried for centuries again, blows him a kiss, and closes the coffin. But David, helped by his mother's ghost, finds Barnabas's coffin and lets him out. Meanwhile, police arrive at the burning fishing factory. Angelique rushes there and tells them about Barnabas's crimes. She plays a secret recording of Barnabas admitting he killed Dr. Julia over the police car's loudspeaker, exposing him to everyone. Then she leads police to Collinwood Mansion to arrest Barnabas's family for hiding a murderer. But she doesn't know David freed Barnabas. Suddenly, Barnabas appears, shocking Angelique. Barnabas says he'll go with the police, then hypnotizes the sheriff. Carolyn acts strangely and closes the door. Barnabas grabs Angelique by the neck. The sheriff wakes up from the hypnosis and shoots Barnabas, but it doesn't hurt him. Angelique dares Barnabas to kill her, but Barnabas says, "I'll show them we're both monsters," and bites her neck. Angelique, stronger than expected, pushes Barnabas away and throws him into the mansion. Now Elizabeth, the sheriff, and the crowd realize Angelique is a witch too. The sheriff quickly tells everyone to leave. Angelique shouts at Barnabas, saying how much she loves him. But Barnabas tells her it's not love, it's just desire. A big fight starts between Barnabas and Angelique. Elizabeth tries to help by shooting Angelique, but it doesn't work. Angelique uses her dark magic to attack Elizabeth and trap Barnabas, making him unable to fight back. At the same time, Carolyn, who Angelique had earlier turned into a werewolf, tries to fight Angelique, but she's not strong enough against the powerful witch and gets beaten easily. Just when Angelique is about to kill Barnabas, David shows up. He tells Angelique to leave Barnabas alone. Angelique, feeling superior, steps away from Barnabas and asks David if he thinks he can stop her. David stays calm and says, "Not me. My mom will stop you." Then something surprising happens. David's mother's ghost appears and fights Angelique, making her lose her balance. Angelique gets thrown into the chandelier, which falls and breaks. This makes Angelique lose her magic powers. As Angelique is dying, Barnabas tells her she never knew how to love anyone. But Angelique keeps insisting she loves Barnabas. She actually pulls out her own heart and tries to give it to Barnabas. But before he can take it, the heart breaks in her hand, and she dies. Now that Angelique is gone, Barnabas notices Victoria is missing. He looks for her in the mansion. David, guided by his mother's ghost, tells Barnabas that Victoria went to the cliffs. Barnabas runs there as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Victoria, still having trouble accepting that Barnabas is a vampire, goes to the same cliffs where Josette died long ago. Feeling too many emotions at once, she stands at the very edge, about to jump. Barnabas arrives just in time and stops her. But Victoria tells him they can never be together unless he makes her a vampire too. Before Barnabas can answer, she jumps off the cliff. Barnabas jumps after her and catches her in midair. Seeing no other choice, Barnabas bites her neck while they're falling through the air, turning her into a vampire. They're both happy, knowing they can now be together forever without death keeping them apart. In the very last scene, we see something unexpected. Dr. Julia Hoffman's body, the one Barnabas threw into the ocean earlier, suddenly opens its eyes. It turns out she has become a vampire too. And that's the end of the story. If you liked this video, please press the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.